And we'll pause here for a moment. This is an opportunity for you to use your device to scan this code. We'll also be sending you a link to this following the session. However, you can go ahead and get these slides right away by scanning the QR code. And next slide. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to my team member, Erica, and she's going to go through the information about how to compile your license. Erica?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to start off with these top 5 common errors that we see during an application process. So whenever you see that little symbol that says top 5, just make a note of it. These are the items that we do see quite a lot as coming in deficient in the application. So number 1 would be the bond that is required for a license. 2 would be personnel or Arizona Corporation Commission. 3 would be completed background checks for personnel. 4, valid and legible IDs. And 5 would be testing. We'll deep dive into each of these items along the presentation, but just keep a note when you see these items to pay close attention to it, just so we can ensure that we reduce the amount of deficiencies on these specific items. Okay, so everyone should have received this checklist either through the email from the meeting, or also it's on our website. This is the best tool to use when it comes to following the process to applying for a license. We have outlined it to give you a great flow on how to complete the portion with minimal deficiencies. Gets you kind of an idea of what items to look for and what are going to be needed for the application process and how to complete it to get you licensed. So if you look at the checklist, we do have two different types. One is for an LLC or corporation, and the other is if you are applying as a sole proprietorship or partnership. We will go into the differences between those, but that gives you the best outline on the application process. Also a good tool to use as you're following along and taking notes during this presentation. Okay, so first and foremost, in order to start the application process, you want to know who is the applicant. So a couple different options that you have would be a sole proprietorship or partnership. Those are basically without a business. So the company or the sole proprietorship or partnership name would be what you find on your government issued ID. Now you also have the option of applying as a corporation or LLC. That you start with creating it with Arizona Corporation Commission. And when you apply for it, you are applying with the name that you created with Arizona Corporation Commission. So it kind of depends on what your business structure will be to know how you are going to apply. If you have managers, members, anyone who owns 25% or more, you're looking at some type of corporation or LLC. Or if you're just kind of doing more of solo work, then you're looking at a possible sole proprietorship or possible partnership. When you apply as that name. However, you do have an option of applying with a doing business as, or what's known as a DBA. A DBA is kind of what we call a fictitious name. It is a name that you can use to advertise, to promote your business. You can contract under the DBA. Just know it does need to be included in your application. It must be listed on your bond. This is not a requirement, but we do recommend it being registered with the Arizona Secretary of State, just so you have that name reserved for yourself. Again, the DBAs are an option. And if you do choose to do so, just recall to have that listed on that application and also on your bond. Okay. So once we get an idea of the type of entity you're applying as, now it goes into determining the type of license you are applying for. So we do have several types of licenses with that covers several different scopes. So you do kind of want to get an idea if you're doing residential work, commercial work, or if you plan on doing both. And if so, what type? If you're doing general contracting, so ground up work, new builds, items like that. If you're doing more of the engineering scope, which can lead more to any work of public right-of-ways, any municipality work, or specialty. Those are more of a smaller scope, so you can have a scope just specifically for electrical or specifically for plumbing, items like that. We do have these listed on our website that goes through each type of category and subcategory. It outlines on what you are allowed to do with those specific licenses to get an idea of where your scope of work kind of fits you in to know what classification to apply for. Determining what type of classification you need is very important because that does determine any type of testing that is required or what type of testing if needed. If you are unsure of the classification that you are looking to apply for, we do have what is called a scope determination request. It is a form you will fill out and just explain to us what exactly you're doing. So the work that's being done, if it's residential, commercial, both, and just a description. The more details, the better for us, so we can better determine the best classification for you. If not, like I said, you can always go into our website. Our definitions do outline majority of the scope to find out where your needs meet. All right. So now we're looking at getting into the actual application process. So the qualifying party is the person who has the experience, the knowledge, the one who is supervising the work that is being done. The qualifying party is the one who is responsible for taking those exams. The qualifying party does have to go through these steps in order to be listed on the application. We do ask for their full name listed on the application, social security, date of birth, their personal information, contact information. They are required a background check. And again, they are the ones who are taking those exams. The qualifying party, again, is the one who is responsible. So they do have to also meet minimum requirements when it comes to experience on the scope of work that they are applying to, which means hands-on experience, supervisory experience, possible education experience that follows along with the scope of work that they are applying for. And also within that application, they are required to submit references for us to contact to ensure that they have the proper experience for that type of license. So now you can see that we do have the common errors pointed out on this slide. Those are items that we do want everyone to pay close attention to regarding the things that are missing for the qualifying party. Testing, background checks, and IDs. Those are big in order to continue on with the application process. Waivers. So we're going to talk a little bit about waivers regarding to applicants who may possibly have already been on the license before in the state of Arizona. So we do have an option for in-state applicants to waive the statutes and rules exam if the qualifying party has been active on a license within the last 5 years. So keep that in mind. It's within the last 5 years. If you have already been on a license, we can waive the statutes and rules exam. And then same thing goes for the trades exam. However, the trades exam is a little bit different. So we're looking at the same criteria. The qualifying party can waive the trades exam if they have been on a license within the last 5 years of the same classification. That is where it is a little bit different. The statutes and rules exam is one exam that is the same for everyone. However, the trades exam is more specific to that classification that you are applying for. That is why we say knowing what classification you are applying for will help you on the following steps. If you aren't sure where you are applying for, you want to double check on that first before we know if you can possibly waive that trades exam if you've been on the license before. When you submit through the online portal, which we highly recommend you do, our system will see that you have been a qualifying party within the last 5 years, and it will give you that opportunity to waive the exam through the online portal. If you do it through mail or in person, we do have forms for you to fill out for that waiver. However, this is why the portal, we will always highlight, it will do that work for you. Right. So out-of-state applicants, so waivers. So I will start with this saying we do not pre-approve waivers. There goes a lot in determining if an out-of-state license can waive the trades exam here in the state of Arizona. We will for sure say the statutes and rules exam cannot be waived if you are coming from out of state. Even if your state you take a similar test, we will not waive it here. Every state has different statutes and different rules, so that test will always be required. Now for the trades exam, we look at several different things to determine what we are looking for to possibly waive the exam. We're looking at similarities like the qualifying party. Was the qualifying party the one that has been on the license or active within the last 5 years of the license itself? That is one of the criteria. Also, we look at that license specifically, the scope of work, the license history. So if there's any unresolved complaints, any type of issues that would prevent that person being licensed again in that state. We also need to verify through the licensing board within that state. Us in Arizona, we license for an entire state. However, there are multiple states that do things a little bit differently. Some do it by county, some can do it by city, some can do it by town. So it just varies on that state itself to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at for that type of license. We do also look at if there's any type of testing, what specific requirements there are. So there's quite a bit that we do need to contact or look up and research in that state to verify if a out-of-state license is it qualifies for us to waive the trades exam here. When you apply, there is an option, there is a form for the out-of-state license waiver. And that should be provided at the time when you upload the application to your online portal or when you mail it in or drop it off in office. We do want to have all that information together. So when we go through the entire application process, we can let you know at that time when we do our initial review if the waiver is approved or not. But again, we have to meet that specific criteria before we can consider waiving that trades exam. All right. So this is, again, a little highlight there, the common errors. So it's our testing. So the statutes and rules exam. We more tailored to it being a training course. It is a self-paced class that goes through Arizona statutes and rules, and it will ask you some questions regarding statutes and what you have learned at the end. It is self-paced, so you are able to pause and then log in at a later time, or you can finish it as soon as you log in. It is up to you and your time. However, that one gives you a little bit more time to go through the entire material, make sure everything is understanded, and then going to the test. The cost of that is $54. The material is all included. Again, it goes over it prior to starting the exam. We do have the downloadable information on the website. You must go through our link on our website to register for this course. It is from our vendor G-Metrics. You will sign up with them, create your course, you will pay for it, and then you will start it from there. Now, our trades exam is a little bit different. Trades is done by our vendor PSI. These are where it gets very specific, especially when, this is why I say, please know your classification before taking that trades exam. It is very specific to what you are applying for. So when you want, like I said, they're like a plumbing license, an electrical license, you will take that trade specific exam. You'll take that electrical exam or that plumbing exam, whichever one you are applying for is that specific test that you take. There are two options on how you take this exam. It's either online or it is in person at one of PSI's testing sites. It is a proctored exam. So keep that in mind if you are doing it online. You are required to have a camera. They do basically oversee and watch you and when you are taking the exam. So keep that in mind when you are registering for it and read over the rules and material that is allowed during that test. If anything were to happen without when it comes to a camera not functioning or anything like that, they can fail you. We definitely do not want that to happen. So be sure to read over the rules regarding when you're doing it at home to be prepared for that in case anything were to happen. The cost of that is $66. There is also study material available for purchase through PSI, or you can also go through any third-party site, Amazon, eBay, or anything like that to get your testing material. And this is where we will go into that testing material. So when you are taking the trades exam, we do advise to refer to the PSI Candidate Information Bulletin. This information bulletin goes deep into each classification on how many questions there are, the subject areas, the time you are allowed on the exam. This is your best tool to better prep you for that trades exam. It does go over the references that are allowed, so you know which items you need to study and which ones are not allowed that you can bring in the testing sites. That is the best tool to know, again, what to study for, what they use to create the exam, and the outline of the subject area gives you a better idea of what their questions are tailored to. This helps many people get know what to look out for when it comes to the exams and just better prepare for the once it's time to take the exam. Okay, so again, this is, if you look at that little highlight, this is one of the common errors that we do see on our application. So who will be included in your application? So when we're looking at LLCs or corporations, so LLCs, owners of 25% or more, Arizona Corporation Commission members or managers. And then corporations, owners of 25% or more, also anyone listed as officers or directors. The best tool to use is whoever you end up listing on Arizona Corporation Commission is required to be listed on our application. Again, they are required to be listed on our application if you list them on Arizona Corporation Commission. If you are using our online portal to apply, it will give you a list of the people who you have listed on Corporation Commission. So that is your best tool to make sure you are not missing anyone. Once it connects to your business, it highlights all those people. So when it gives you that information, you need to have everyone listed listed with us to avoid any deficiencies. And each person on that application needs to provide the following. They're required their personal information, their full name, an ID. Again, that is one thing that is missed quite often, is an ID. Contact information such as email, address, also social security, title. So we do need to know what title they hold to ensure that if they have any ownership, that we do list it on our side too. We want to make sure that we have all proper ownership listed on our records, and again, that they match Corporation Commission. And also a completed background check. The background check's huge. Those are required for everyone that is again listed. And when you are doing the online portal application, just know if you do not have that background check completed, it will not let you continue. So these items we do want to look for when completing the application to reduce the amount of deficiencies that we receive. All right. Background checks. So again, must be completed for each individual on that application. So everyone must complete this background check through our vendor, AccuSource HR. And they are valid for 90 days from when we receive the application. When you are doing your application, it is going to ask you for a receipt number, and that will only be available to you once it is completed. So again, this is why it's very important to get this done, because it will put you at a stop, especially when you are using that online portal. It is a required field to fill out. So until you have that completed and have that receipt number ready, you will basically be stuck on the online portal process without that number. So keep that in mind. This should be completed before continuing on with the application process. We do have the link connected to our website for AccuSource to get the background checks completed, and also AccuSource's information for any questions, or if you have a background check that is currently pending, to contact AccuSource for any information.
Erica, before we move on, could you please answer the question in the chat? How long does it normally take to get a background check completed?
There's really no ETA. It can really depend on the person. We have seen take like 48 to 72 hours possibly. However, they do take into consideration if you have moved states, that it can take a little bit longer because they go through each state that you've been in to get any background information. There's usually no ETA, but I've not seen it exceed more than a few days. All right, workers' compensation. So workers' compensation, if you have any employees, we do ask for your policy and workers' compensation company information. only if you have employees. There are two exemptions for not needing workers' comp. That is, if you are a single member, you are owning 100% of your entity, and you are also the qualifying party. Or you are a two-member owning 50-50, and that's the biggest thing. It has to be 50-50. If it's 49-51, you're not exempt. If it's 99-1, you are not exempt. It has to be 50-50, and one of the two members being the qualifying party to be exempt from workers' comp. Even if you have that type of structure and you have employees, you are required workers' compensation. But the two ways to be exempt is being that single member 100% with also being the qualifying party, or that two-member 50-50. If there are any specific questions about workers' compensation, the Industrial Commission of Arizona would be your best point of contact. They do oversee workers' compensation as a whole for the state of Arizona, also regarding the statute for it. We do have their website linked below if you have any questions regarding workers' compensation. All right. Now we are looking at a tiered entity chart. So no, these are not required for everyone. This is only required if your company is owned by another company. So this goes into detailing the ownership structure of who owns who. So if you look at that red corporation, so that is our applicant. If your applicant, your company that you're applying under has is owned by another company, this is where that tiered entity chart begins. So we look at who else owns that company and how much percentage, and also who will own the company above that. It does get a little confusing when you're looking at multiple companies owning one, but this is kind of a structure that we look at as an example of what a tiered entity chart would look like. When we create tiered entity charts, there's not a specific template or anything like that that goes along with them. They are based off of your specific business structure. So when you complete one, you will attach it to your application, and then we will review it from there. When it comes to tiered entity charts, we just want to see the flow of ownership and where it ends. Charts should end in a person. We need to see who basically is the one that we are contacting for regarding anything towards the applicant, any deficiencies, any items that need to be signed, or anything like that. So we do ask that it be end in a person. And same thing, that person will also be the one who gets a background check, will be added to the application, and so forth. If you ever have any questions regarding a tiered entity chart, you can always send it to our licensing department and we can review it. However, it's always best to send it along with your completed application so we can kind of piece things together. All right, so now we're looking at bonds. So this is another error that we see almost every day. So there's 3 types of bonds that you are able to get for your license. Surety, which is the most common. You get those from any insurance company, bonding company, your choice on which company you choose to utilize for that. Cash, so it's the bond amount is cash, just a one flat payment on that. And then a certificate of deposit that you will go to any bank to receive. They will fill out the proper documentation that you will provide us to add that to your license. There are minimum coverage requirements based on your attested volume of work and the license classification. So we do look at the license classification, especially for duals. This is one of the common errors we do see. If you have a dual license, it does need to have two different bond coverages to cover both residential and commercial. We will go more into detail about that soon. But when you are on your application process, especially if you are doing it through the online portal, it kind of will ask you those questions when you're filling it out. So if you are looking at like it says the commercial bond requirements, it's going to ask you what you're looking at your attested volume of work annually. And that will determine the type of coverage that you need. And highlighted at the bottom are a few bond companies that have access to our online portal. So that means that they have access to adding your bond to your online application only. Again, this is only if you are applying through our online portal, which is why we do want people to use it, especially if you're using any of those highlighted bond companies below. They will attach the bond for you. Once you go through the process with them, complete it, you make your payment with them, and you have all your documents signed with those bond companies, then that reduces any form that you need to submit to us, helps us with any possible reducing deficiencies or anything like that. So they are a good tool to use if you are more for going towards the portal side of the application process. All right, so this is a sample of what our bond should look like. So again, this is where the errors happen quite a bit, and we're really hoping to reduce those. So the important notes about the bond is your entity name. And again, if you're using a DBA, it is required to be on there. So your entity name, again, now that goes back to how are you applying? Who is the applicant? If you're applying as an LLC, then that full name from your LLC needs to be listed. And it has to match what is listed on Corporation Commission. If you have a DBA with that LLC, you add that to that bond as well. If you are applying as a sole proprietor, that bond name needs to be your legal name, what is listed on your government issued ID. So if you have first, middle, last name on your government issued ID, we need to see first, middle, and last name on that bond. Now the classification. The classification is very important, so we match it to your application. So if you are applying for that CR7, we need to see CR7 on there. That can get confusing if we have the wrong classification on there, because then it may look like you've applied for the wrong license, or maybe we were looking at the wrong classification. It's hard to say, but this is why, again, knowing what you're applying for as well is important, so you can fill in those blanks of the type of classification and list it on your bond. So now this is the biggest one, is the penal sums. So if you have a dual license, like that example shows, we need those amounts separated. We need to have it outlined what is residential and what is commercial. Those items need to be listed out that way, so we know you are meeting minimum requirements for your bond and that license classification. If they are not listed like that, it will be a deficiency. And again, if you use if you use the online portal and one of the companies inputs that bond for you, they will do this for you. But if you are submitting a paper bond, again, those sums need to be separated so we know you are meeting that criteria of the minimum requirements. The effective date must be within the last 6 months. So when they sign it, they seal it, you will have that date listed on there. It must be within the last 6 months. If we don't, we do need a letter from your bond company. It's called a full force and effect on that with that. However, as long as it is within the last 6 months, then this is all we would need. Notarized signature of attorney in fact. So all bonds required to be notarized. They can notarize as a regular stamp. We know now there's a lot of digital notary happening. So if it is digitally notarized, that's okay, as long as we have that signature from that attorney, in fact, with that notary name and that seal, we're okay. And same thing with the official seal of the surety company. They will have their own separate seal. Again, a lot of bond companies are doing it digitally now, and that's okay as well. But it is required from the bond company to seal that that bond page. So we'll have the two seals on it, the signatures, and making sure that all those items are listed properly on that bond to avoid any delays in your application process. This is where a lot of applications do get hung up because either the penal sums are together, we are missing a DBA. These are very, very important items. And we do, again, want to reduce the amount of deficiencies we receive with those. So this example is best to look into when you are getting your bond. We do also have a couple other examples on our website to utilize to make sure your bond will not hang up your application process. All right, disclosures. So there are disclosures at the end of the application process that it will ask for a few different items. If you have ever been listed on any prior license that has been revoked or suspended, if you were ever licensed for any unlicensed activity, or if you have any felony convictions or pending charges. These are required to be answered, and they are required to be answered truthfully. Any additional documents would be if you are getting an electrical license and you plan on doing solar, you are required to submit a solar warranty. Again, we do have those an example of that on our website to look into. When applying for a license, you do have the option to either cancel, inactivate, or what's called disassociate yourself from another license. A lot of the times, people get a residential license. Now they want to move up to a dual, or commercial license, they want to move up to a dual. You are either able to cancel it upon issuance of the new one, again, inactivate it upon issuance, or disassociate yourself from that other license. These forms you can submit with your application. The cancellation and disassociation do not have fees associated to them. Just know in license inactivation does. It is a $50 fee to inactivate, or what we would say, put your license on a hold for a 5-year period. But those are optional if you are planning to do any of those items. Again, for solar warranty, it is required if you are doing any solar work. All right, so our fees are based upon the type of license you're applying for. So if you look at the chart, every type of license has a bit of a different fees. So if you're looking for a dual license for a specific classification or specialty, you're looking at around $850. We do have our KB2s, our generals listed on there. So this is not what you, this is your initial payment for the application process. When you renew your license, that application fee will no longer apply. However, when you are paying for your license renewal, you will pay your license fee. Also, only if you have a residential license, you pay for the recovery fund. The recovery fund goes into let's say if there was any type of complaint, and it goes towards any legal matter and basically paying to the person who had gotten work done for any loss or damages. That is where that money comes from. You pay for it every 2 years. So remember that you renew every 2 years for your license. If you are applying for multiple licenses, you pay per license. So if you're applying for an A and then you're also applying for a C, you're paying two different fees. That's $780 and $580. So keep that in mind. If you are applying for multiple licenses, you pay fees per license. And that includes recovery fund as well. If you're applying for two different licenses that both include residential, you pay per license on that recovery fund assessment. All right, so we've kind of gone over the overview of what we're looking at for the application, what is required. So this tool is going to be your best friend when it comes to applying for a license. This helps you get to the point where your application is almost complete to submit for us to review. When you go through these items, this is where we say, all these kind of go in with one another. Knowing what type of who is the applicant, knowing the classification, that again leads you towards the type of exams you take, that leads you towards what is needed on your bond for LLCs and corporations. That helps you ensure that you have the correct people listed on your application. Once you have all those items is when you are ready to submit your application to us. Again, using this checklist is going to be your best friend in this entire process. It helps you make sure that there's no step miss. It helps you kind of go through the flow and again, make sure that all items are completed before you start the application process. This is why completing that application is one of the last steps. Without those other steps done, you will not be able to complete the application and move forward with being licensed. All right, so now we've gone through the steps of testing, bond, getting our paperwork together. Now we are ready to submit our application. We do have a couple different ways to submit that application. Again, we will always highlight our online portal. Our online portal, again, guides you like that checklist does, step by step on how to apply for a license, what is needed. It ensures that you are not missing a step, because if there's a step that is missed, it's going to stop you. So it is the most convenient way to get the application done. You can always pause it, go back to it if needed. Any type of documents that are required for the application process, you do have an option to upload them. So you can always scan them, take a photo of them, and upload it as a file through our online portal. Again, it helps you make sure you're not missing anything. It will always highlight and let you know if there is something missing. And again, it will not let you move forward. So we know we reduce deficiencies that way. And also, if you're using one of our bond companies that use our bond portal, another thing, they will get that bond uploaded for you. So that is one less document you need to remember to submit to us, which will help out tremendously. Or you can also come into our office in downtown Phoenix, 1700 West Washington, and you can always drop off your application or mail it in to us. When you drop it off, just be sure to have all the documents completed. If anything, we'll give you paper documents to fill out. However, please ensure that if you do that in person or by mail, you have all those items together in your packet, which is the application, any possible waiver, any all IDs, background check receipts, your bond, all those items must be included when you either drop it off in person or mail it in. If you drop it off in person, you will make your payment here. If you mail it in, you will you can mail in your check along with your application. So we have it all together and then move forward with the process. All right. So creating your online portal. Again, we will always highlight the portal. It is our friend. It is our tool to get us through that application process. If you've not done so already, you are able to go into our website. And if you click on that little My Account login button, and then it'll take you to our login page. If you have never logged in through the online portal, it does give you a little link on creating your online portal or to register it. Also, we do have a video on that login page on the steps to creating your account. We do recommend watching that video. It highlights, again, how to create your account, how to look up your business, how to link that business to your online portal account. Also, if you are already licensed, how to look up your license and maintain your license from there. Through the online portal, you are able to do several different things once you're licensed. You're able to renew, you're able to make changes, which is address changes, contact information, anything like that you can do through your online portal to not need to submit any forms to us. This is why we highly recommend creating that portal. You are able to maintain your license in all ways, shapes, and forms through that one portal. And it is good to have that to set up your reminders on renewals. And then again, when it's time for renew, you make your payment, it's complete. Following up on your applications, following up on any what we call maintenance requests, which is updating like personnel, updating qualifying parties. You are able to change those within the online portal, or any item like that. Once you log in through the online portal, it will take you to the ROC online customer portal. You'll see that little header, and then you'll see those 5 blue buttons. Your first step is always to add that entity to your account. That is how you maintain all your items, especially when it's your first time applying. When you add that, you need to select add entity to your account. You'll select the type of entity you are, whether it's LLC, corporation, etc. And then when you are ready to connect your business, you are required to submit your Arizona Corporation Commission file number. That is how we link to Arizona Corporation Commission to make sure your status is active, in good standing. And again, when you are applying for the license, that you match the personnel. That is how we ensure that we are entering everyone who is required to be on there is following along through the online portal and adding your entity. It'll give you all that information for you. All right. So again, highlighting our top 5 deficiencies. These are huge things. So to not forget is checking Arizona Corporation Commission. Again, we want to be mirrors to Arizona Corporation Commission. Whoever you have listed, we need listed with us. And anyone involved at that listed on the application must get a background check, and it must be completed within 90 days of us receiving that application. And same thing goes for the people is valid legible IDs. Everyone is required an ID. Everyone's required that background check. The qualifying party is that person who is required to making sure those tests are completed. Whether you are testing, if you're using a waiver or not, those testing requirements must be completed and submitted all along with your application so we can review it in its entirety. And our biggest one is going to be that bond. Please, please, please use those sample bonds that we have on our website to make sure that nothing is missing off your bond, making sure that the amounts are separated, making sure that the name is correct, making sure that we have all items revised and corrected on that bond. So it's not going to come back as a deficiency. Our bonds, again, are one that we really want to see improve on those deficiency items. So best thing to use is our sample bonds. We have sample bonds with a DBA, without a DBA, if you're applying as a sole proprietorship, just to ensure that you are not forgetting any items. Or I've seen some people actually print out one of our sample bonds and take it to their bond company and said that my bond should look like this, and they came with a correct bond. The people use those tools, and it is and it helps. It really does. So we want to ensure that all those items are completed. And again, as long as we have those items completed, it will make your application process smoother. So we're not stopping for these type of deficiency items.
Awesome. Erica, thank you so much for all that great information. I especially love your tip about bringing the sample bond to the bond company. That's next level. So
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So
I also
go
want
ahead,
to give
Julie.
another plug for our portal. Our portal, the reason that we try to get people to use our portal is not for our benefit. It is for yours, because it does try to make sure that you get the application here with no errors. There's still a possibility for human error always. You know, we all make mistakes, but it does walk you through everything that you need. And if you use a bond company that is connected through the portal to the application, those companies have quick access to get your bond in there and with less mistakes. Not saying it can never have mistakes, but it gets it here in a better form. And most of the time, no errors. So I definitely recommend the portal. Erica, there were a few questions that I did not get to because I thought it would be better to talk about these. Number one is, do you have, through all testing, you've been a partner for 30 years. Do you have? I'm not sure, Mark, what you mean by that question. So if you want to take yourself off mute and ask that question. My best guess would be if you haven't been a qualifying party and you've only been a partner, that does qualify you for perhaps experience, but you would have to take both exams. If it's a different question than that, you can always take yourself off mute. The next question was out-of-state waivers for trade exams. What is needed besides a letter from the contractors board in my state, which we don't need, but I'll let Erica go over that again.
So you are not going to be submitting any information of that out-of-state license other than the license itself. So we need the license number, any company name it is associated with, and what state it's being held. We are going to contact that state to verify the again, qualifications of that, of how long the person is on that license, who is the one listed, years of experience required. If there's any testing involved, there's no documents you would submit again, other than just basically disclosing that license to us, and we are going to contact that state to ensure we can waive the trades exam.
How does licensing work if most of the work you want to do is prefab?
That I would recommend submitting a scope determination request, so we can go over more in detail of what exactly the work of the work that's being done. There's no blanket answer for that. Again, this is where we need to know if it's commercial, residential, dollar amount, exactly what is being done to determine a classification. So we do recommend at that point, for that specific question, please submit a scope determination request, so our scope committee can review all that information and send you our best determination.
And I'm sorry, Jesse, you can go ahead with what you were going to say. I apologize for the interruption.
No, that's okay. I'm glad that you did, because we're running on time. So thank you for that. So this slide is just to remind you to check your email. So I'm going to be sending you all an email within the next few days following today's session. We want to make sure that you complete the survey on there. Also, there is a link to watch this again on YouTube. You can get a link to the checklist that we've been talking about. So important. Make sure to download those checklists. And then we also ask that you mark on your application when you do submit to us that you did attend this seminar, and that helps us design a good education packet for you. We also want to remind everyone that is on your application does need to make sure to complete the DocuSign part. So that is extremely important. Cedric, if you go to the next slide, it's just the Q&A bit. At this point, anyone can take themselves off of mute if you'd like. You can also use the chat feature. Either way, you can go ahead and this time is yours to ask us questions. We are at time, but we are scheduled to remain here until your questions are answered. So